Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another book haul, my July book haul. If you watched my last video on Sunday, you will know that July is the major book buying month of the year. And I have a stack of 7 now here, but I've ordered a couple of more, and I have still money left on my gift certificates, but I thought 7 is enough to show you and to share with you. And the first book I bought is this one, Otessa Moshfegh's My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which came out last year, summer of 2018. If you're following my channel, you probably remember that I really, really enjoyed her previous book, Eileen, which was nominated for the Man Booker. I think it was even shortlisted. And I loved the gritty style of an unlikable character. This book is set in 2000, and it follows a young woman, Darcy, who works for a hip gallery, and she's a Columbia graduate, and life seems good, but it isn't. Now I have to say, I'm normally not that drawn to this kind of story, young people who have a perfect life, but they feel this hole in their heart, as it says here, something. But yeah, and the book got mixed reviews, I also have to say. But yeah, like I said, her last one really convinced me, and I thought, why not give it a try? So we'll see. I will report back. The next book I bought is an essay collection, and that is Maggie Nelson's Bluets, published 10 years ago in 2009. Now, I've read Maggie Nelson's latest essay collection, The Argonauts. It's more of a memoir collection about her relationship with her lover, and gender plays a major role in that collection. And I liked it. I didn't love it, but I was really drawn to the language and the way of thinking of Maggie Nelson. So I thought I'll give an earlier collection a try, and I saw Bluets, so that's the one I picked. Maggie Nelson is a poet and an essayist, a critic, but also she writes, nonfiction essay collections. And Bluets is, as the title suggests, and also the cover, it's about her obsession, or at least her love affair with the color blue. It's in short paragraphs, numbered paragraphs. That's basically all I know, but I wanted to give another book by Maggie Nelson a try after The Argonauts didn't quite convince me, but convinced me enough to think that Maggie Nelson is a really interesting thinker. So that's why I picked up Bluets. The next book I picked up was a really a spur of the moment buy, browsing the bookstore and seeing a book, picking it up and thinking, why not? And then remembering that I actually knew the author, and that is Mona Awad's Bunny, which was published just last month in June. Mona Awad is a Canadian author. Shawn, I need to read more Kenlit, so here you go. And I remember her from her last book, 13 Ways to Look at a Fat Girl, which got quite mixed reviews, and somehow I decided not to pick it up. But when I saw this one, her new novel, I thought, why not give this author a try anyway? And Bunny is a campus novel, and I like me a good campus novel. It's set in New England, centering around a clique of very privileged young women, and the one outsider, as it's typical in these kind of campus novels. I'm sort of reluctant about this buy in a way, because I wasn't drawn to the previous book, but yeah, like I said, sometimes you just have to step over yourself and give an author a try. And as I mentioned earlier, because Shawn always pushes me to read more Kenlit, I thought this might be a good pick. So Bunny by Mona Awad. The next book I bought was a book for a buddy read with Shawn over at Shawn the Book Maniac, and that's Yi Yun Lee's new book, Where Reason Ends, which came out a little earlier this year, I think in June. I read her memoir, Dear Friend, I Write from My Life to You in Your Life, month ago or so, and I really loved it. And Shawn, he loved that book as well, and we wanted to read her newest, so we decided to do a buddy read, which will start next Sunday. Yi Yun Lee is now living in America, but she is a Chinese author, but originally who immigrated to the United States, but she writes in English. She always wrote in English, and in her memoir, Dear Friend, she writes about the language, why she chose English. So that was really interesting to me. Anyway, this book is a novel, but it is based on Yi Yun Lee's life because it is a letter from a mother to her son who committed suicide, and Yi Yun Lee's son indeed committed suicide. So I'm going into this with really high expectations, which is normally not a good thing to do because I loved her memoir, Dear Friend, so much. But I've seen a lot of booktubers also rave about this book. So hopefully for me and Shawn, it will live up to our expectations. And the next three I want to show you, I bought in the used bookstore. So the first one is a very short, tiny little book, Maeve Brennan, The Visitor. Maeve Brennan was an Irish author who lived in New York, and I love her work. She mainly wrote short stories, which you will think, why do you love her? You never read short stories, but there are some exceptions, and I love her. I also find her such an interesting woman. And this one is one of her first stories, but it was found only after her death. She died in 1970s, and now republished in 2002, and I found it in a used bookstore. It's about a young woman, Anastasia, who has lived with her mother in Paris after her mother left her husband, and then the mother dies, and Anastasia goes back to Dublin to the house of her grandmother, and that doesn't turn out well. It never does in Maeve Brennan's work. So I was really happy to find this tiny little book, and I've read it already because I couldn't help myself. So I will talk about it some more in a wrap-up or recent reads. But if you've never heard of Maeve Brennan, you should definitely check her out. And the next book I bought is about Maeve Brennan, and it's a biography. This is her, by the way. It's brilliant. She had so much style and, like it said, wit, style and tragedy, because the last 10 years of her life she suffered from mental illness and alcoholism, and she was all but forgotten, even though she was in her time really well known. She wrote for the New Yorker a regular column, The Long-Winded Lady. But anyway, this is Angela Burke's biography of Maeve Brennan, also published more than a decade ago, but I found this in a used bookstore as well, so I had to get it. Like I said, Maeve Brennan, one of my leading ladies. I have three, if you're wondering. Virginia Woolf, Maeve Brennan, and Susan Sontag. Just saying. Anyway, and the last book I found is a junkster, and that is Katherine Mansfield's Notebooks, published in 2002. Now, Katherine Mansfield was a New Zealand author. She lived at the turn of the century, 20th century, and she died in 1923. Yeah, 1923, when she was only 35. And I read one of her collections, The Garden Party, last month. I talked about it in my video about buddy reads because I read it with Adam from Memento Mori. And even though we didn't love all the stories in the collection, Katherine Mansfield is, I always wonder if she had lived longer, what would she have accomplished? I mean, all of her stories she wrote, when she was not even in her mid-30s, because she died when she was 35. But anyway, so this is a collection of all her notebooks and diary entries. So it has, can you see this? It has long texts like ideas for novels, but also drafts of short stories, of poems, because she was also a poet. She lived in London, by the way, after she immigrated from New Zealand, because she didn't like her life there. And yeah, this is not a book, that you will read cover to cover. It's more for a completist like me, being so enamored with a certain author, and so interested in the way she thought and her writing process. This is something that I really wanted to have, because you can see, I already flipped through the book and read bits and pieces. You can see how she developed, and because it starts when she was quite young, in her teenage years. Her first, as she calls it, baby stories that were published. They were published in a high school magazine. So I just love these kind of books. That's basically what I was trying to say. I think if you are, a Katherine Mansfield fan, then this is probably something that you would want to have. In any case, I did, and I found it, and I have it, and I'm happy. Anyway, another really short video. Again, count your blessings, because this is not gonna last, I assure you. But anyway, these were the 7 books that I bought recently, all of them last week, to be exact, when I was in Holland. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I'm looking forward to talking to you down in the comments. Maybe let me know which books you bought recently that you are excited about. And I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye.